May I have a seat, please?
Ms. Cox, this is what I gather this case is about. You met Mr. Richardson because you both have children that go to the same school?
We do.
Okay, and your child is how old?
She's 6.
And how old is your child?
7.
And according to you, you made an arrangement with Mr. Richardson that in exchange for babysitting for his 7-year-old daughter, that he would barter a Jeep that he had for sale for $1,500, that you fulfilled your end of the contract, and that at some point he took the Jeep back. In addition, you say you fully paid off the Jeep by working, and he owes you additional money for babysitting. Mr. Richardson says, no way. What happened was she didn't have a car, and I told her that she could use my Jeep if she babysat for my daughter, and she could use it for her own purposes. She stopped babysitting. I took back my car. That's your defense, and you also claimed, in addition to the Jeep not being sold, but just loaned to Ms. Cox, you claimed 2 loans to her that she hasn't paid back. Okay, so that's the case. When did you start to use the Jeep?
In the end of October.
And is that when you started to babysit for his daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. His daughter is 7 years old, so she's in school full time.
Yes.
When did you babysit for her?
He would drop her off first thing in the morning, about an hour to an hour and a half before school started. I would take the kids to school and then pick them up, and I would watch her for between 1 to 3 hours after school.
Okay, so you watched her 2 to 3 hours a day. Let's say 5 days a week. So at most, you watched her 15 hours a week. Now, when did you stop babysitting?
I stopped babysitting on February 12th. However, you're not taking into account, on Fridays, our kids have early dismissal. So Fridays, it was longer, and then...
Right. Okay. And in the meantime, you used the Jeep?
Yes.
All day long for yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
You went to see your friends. You used it at night. When you got a babysitter, you used it on the weekends.
Yes, ma'am.
You used it all day. Not 2 to 3 hours a day. You used it all day. Okay. And you did that November, December, January, and part of February.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened in February?
In February, I could not pay my rent. I had been evicted because he was not paying me my wages for watching his daughter.
Well, just a minute. So when do you claim, in your case, best case scenario, when do you claim you paid off the Jeep?
I had it paid off by January.
So in 2 months, you paid off the Jeep?
Yes, ma'am.
So in 2 months, you worked 120 hours?
Yes, ma'am.
No. I'm trying to figure out whether there's a logic to her complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
So in 2 months, you paid off the Jeep, and that's when he started to pay you?
He was supposed to pay me.
He was supposed to pay you. How much was he supposed to pay you?
Minimum wage, which is...
You're making this up as we're going along. Don't make it up as we're going along. If you made it a contract, then you say he was supposed to pay me $8 an hour. He's supposed to pay me $10 an hour. How much in this contract was he supposed to pay you?
$8.31 an hour.
Well, giving you the benefit of all the hours, based upon what you told me and what you said in your complaint, was Brian was selling his 1944 Jeep Laredo for $1,500 and he needed a babysitter. But based upon what you told me, you never worked off the $1,500. I used the hours that you gave me, not 2 hours a day, but 3 hours a day, times 5 days a week is 15, times the 2 months, it's 120 hours, times the minimum wage is $8 an hour, comes to $9.60. Add the 31 cents, it's nowhere near $1,500.
I also watched her Saturdays, a lot of Saturdays. Fridays were longer hours. I would watch her when he would go out. I have all of the hours that I've worked. I ended up watching her for a total of 277 hours.
So when he turned the car over to you, I assume that you finished working this off, because that was your agreement. You know, I don't believe this story for a minute. And then you were supposed to get paid. It would seem to me that a smart lady like you would have gotten the title to the car. Did you?
I did not.
You did not.
He always had a reason why he couldn't transfer it.
He always had a reason. But you kept going back.
I did.
You kept going back and you kept using the Jeep.
My daughter was being diagnosed with lupus, which is a horrendous disease.
I know all
needed
about
a vehicle.
lupus.
I needed a vehicle to be able to take her to the hospital.
Listen to me. I gotcha. I don't believe you, is my problem. I think you needed his car. He let you use the car, and he let you use the car for all of your purposes, with the exception of the time when you were taking care of your daughter and his daughter, going to school and picking her up from school. And then something happened. Now, he may have been smitten with you. I don't know. That's what you suggest in your complaint.
I have a love letter from him.
I don't care. Don't you understand? I don't care about that. If you thought that he was smitten with you, then you shouldn't have worked for him because you clearly have another boyfriend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you shouldn't have worked for him. So if you took advantage of his being smitten with you in exchange for whatever, that's something that's for a whole other show. I'm telling you that I don't believe that he ever sold you and bartered the Jeep with you. Otherwise, you would have gotten the title when you paid it off. Now, you did take money from him. For what?
For payment.
No, just a second. You said you ran short on your rent. That's what you started to tell me. You ran short on your rent, and that happened in February.
I've been short on my rent several times. My heat has actually been shut off because he was not paying my wages.
Get another job!
I actually ended up getting another job, and then he took the Jeep 2 days before. I ended up getting fired from the job before I was even able to start.
If you weren't getting paid December, January, part of February, why did you keep working for him?
Because if I knew that if I stopped working for him, he was going to take the Jeep.
I
had no way to get my daughter to the hospital.
He was going to take the car because that was your arrangement. You could use the car as long as you picked up his daughter from school and dropped her off at school. Go ahead.
Ma'am, she lives a block from the school. That's how I met her. I saw her walking her little boy to school to pick her daughter. Her daughter's in my daughter's class. And the babysitter I had smoked nonstop all day, and I didn't want my daughter over there, so I was looking for a babysitter. And I seen her walking to school, and I thought, well, you know, she needs a car. I'll let her use my car.
Well, you don't say she needs a car. You didn't know that until you started to talk to her.
Right, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you started to talk to her. And
I told her, I said, hey, I have a Jeep. You could use it, do whatever you want to with it. I'll insure it. I'll get plates on it in exchange for watching my daughter. 1 hour in the morning and an hour and a half to 2 hours in the afternoon. Every other week, ma'am, for 9.5 weeks. She didn't watch her every week. I have split custody with my ex-wife. I have my daughter 1 week. My ex-wife has her the other week. So it wasn't all that. It was half of that.
I see. You left that out.
I apologize for leaving that out.
Yeah, you should have put that in. Okay, so it was half the time. So it was a period of 9 weeks?
Yes, ma'am, every other week. So 4 to 5 weeks is all she watched her total. And like I say, an hour in the morning, and I do visits in the afternoon. Okay.
That's fine. I got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I want you to tell me about the money.
Okay, she watched my daughter for a total of 1 week to start with before she started coming up short on rent and needing it. So the first time she said, I'm $200 short. So I said, well, Jamie, I can lend it to you, you know. So I did. I had it in my pocket.
Did you know what kind of work she did?
She don't work.
Well, how does she support herself?
I have no idea, ma'am.
How do you support yourself?
I was working for him.
No.
Before that, I was a bartender.
A bartender for whom and during what period?
I was a bartender from the time I got to Colorado, which was in June of 2015, until October of 2015 when my car broke down. I worked in Colorado Springs. I live in Pueblo. It's about a 40-mile drive.
Okay, so you worked for 3 months?
Yes.
And where did you live before that?
Washington State.
And what did you do there?
I was a bartender there as well.
Okay. How much money in total did you give her?
$600, ma'am. That's the loan that I loaned her. I gave her money all the time. Whatever she needed, I gave it to her.
Like what?
Well, her coffee pot broke down. I bought her a coffee pot, her DVD player. I gave her $20 on 2 occasions.
We're not talking about
just because she
shattering
needed...
amounts of money. DVD player you bought her or you gave her?
I bought it for her.
A new one?
Yes, ma'am. And a new coffee pot. I bought her a necklace. I bought her shoes. I bought her anything she asked for. I got it for her.
Well, Mr. Richardson, it sounds to me like you were more interested in her than...
She told me the first week that there was going to be no relationship between me and her, and I was cool with that. I just needed a babysitter.
Well, then why'd you buy her a necklace for?
Well, because
rent, I understand.
I mean, she's watching my daughter, and the kids need to watch it. I mean, I don't know. I bought it for her. She asked for it. I got it for her.
It's ridiculous. All right, tell me about the money.
Okay, like I say, ma'am, the first week, she hadn't watched my daughter 1 week, and she was short on rent. So I lent her $200 the first time. Everything was cool for another month. Then she's going to get evicted the next day, or the landlord's coming over in an hour and a half to throw her out. So I told her, I said, Jamie, I don't have that money in the bank. I says, I have some in my backyard saved. I'll go get it for you. And I did. I got it $400 for her and gave it to her. And she never has paid me nothing back.
Do me a favor, Mr. Richardson. Change the place where you keep your money.
Well, I had it. Okay, yeah. It's safe where I keep it.
Not anymore. Used to be safe. It's not safe anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
All right? Be smart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
You told her you were going to pay her for the furniture. Unfortunately, your choice of language was such that the camera operator here can't take a picture of it. Would you show Shakespeare, please, the...
Jamie Cox says former employer Brian Richardson owes for babysitting fees, the return of a Jeep, and pain and suffering. Brian is countersuing for unpaid loans and harassment.
So the next time was $400?
Yes, ma'am.
What date was that?
I'm not sure the exact date, but I have it right here where she wrote it on what she sued me on for the 400. She didn't mention the other 200, but she did mention 400 of it.
Can I see?
Loan right here, $400. She didn't mention the other 200. And I have a text message here, ma'am, that she even says, I thought that was a loan.
Just a second. Well, you indicate that he loaned you $400.
Yes, he did pay me $400.
No, didn't say paid. You wrote loan.
I wrote loan because it was not a loan. It was payment.
You wrote loan. This is what your out-of-pocket expenses. Groceries, you say, for 9 weeks. A car seat that was ruined. A stroller that was ruined. Thanksgiving, I provided $150, replacing what Brianna destroyed. That's your daughter, I suppose. Brianna is your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Credits, Brian paid $0. Handed me $20 on 2 occasions. DVD player, 20 occasions. Loan, $400. That's what you wrote. Loan, $400.
Yes,
Good.
because that's what he was claiming that it was. So I even took that $400 off of here.
Good. The complaint is dismissed on the counterclaim. I'm awarding you, sir, $400. We're done.
I have a police report about harassment, ma'am, that she was harassing me constantly, and I called the police.
Just a second. Did you file for a protective order against her?
Right here, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
May I see it?
Harassment order.
May I see it? Did you get a protective order against her?
No, ma'am. I did not get a protective order. Well, the first time, one of her friends at school came up to me threatening to beat me up because I took my Jeep back that she was working off. That was the first, and I didn't say nothing about that first time. The second time, some lady comes up to me. I find out it's her mom. She comes up to me, Brian? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, I'm her mom's name, and she said, I want to tell you what a low-life piece of you are for the way you did my daughter. So that time I called the cops, ma'am, because I wasn't nothing but...
Why didn't you file a protective order? Not against her, because so far it's just her mother that harassed you.
Well, she was just down here visiting her, so she wasn't going to be there long anyway.
Complaint is dismissed. Judgment on the counterclaim for $400. We're done.
Ma'am.
We are done.
While you're excused, you may step out.
He wrote me a love letter and bought me a diamond necklace before I had even ever met him.
I gave her the diamond necklace before she was my babysitter.
I baked him cookies and I returned the necklace the very next day.
I mean, it wasn't nothing big, you know.
Very difficult. I've almost lost my child 3 times because of this.
Very big mistake. Trying to be nice to her, and I couldn't believe she didn't want to give my Jeep back, you know.
I've gone into labor because I have to walk everywhere.
Be more careful about picking my babysitters.
And now,
Seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Block, you hired the defendants who have a horse and carriage for your daughter's wedding.
Correct.
And the arrangement was you were going to pay them a certain amount of money to ride your daughter and her fiance around and take photographs before they reached a place where either the wedding or the reception was supposed to take place.
Yes, Your Honor.
When was the wedding?
August 13th, 2016.
It is your claim that they didn't perform that service satisfactorily and you didn't get your money's worth. You want your money back, plus, whatever. Anyway, how much did you pay them?
$650 for 1 hour.
And the hour was supposed to start when?
At 4:30 and end at 5:30.
Where were they supposed to pick your daughter up from?
After the ceremony, we had the ceremony at Pioneer Park, and they were supposed to deliver them to the reception hall approximately 3 blocks away. But the ride was going to go further.
You're the bride?
Yes.
Could you stand up, please? Tell me your last name.
Paul. Paul is my maiden name. Married name is Johnson.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, you had the ceremony.
Yes.
When did the ceremony start?
The ceremony started at 3:30 p.m. on August 13th.
And when was it over?
It was over roughly about 4 o'clock to 4:15.
What time did the carriage arrive?
The carriage arrived around 4:30.
As contracted for?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what time did you depart the carriage?
We departed from Pioneer Park at 4:36 p.m.
And what time did you get to the reception?
We got to the reception hall at 5 after 5.
Did you have a conversation with the defendants about where the ride should be taking you?
No, my mom and dad surprised me with it.
So you were surprised when you came out of the ceremony?
Yes.
That's nice. Was the day nice?
It was very beautiful.
Did you take any pictures?
Yes, we have some pictures.
I'd like to see them.
Here's arrival at the Lowell Park, and I have some professional pictures as they left Pioneer Park if you want those.
I'd like to take a look at those too.
Here's 3. And
did you have a written contract with the defendants?
yes, I did.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Here's this, and I put a note at the top because we weren't sure of the ceremony time.
No, you don't put any note in the top.
Okay.
If you had a contract, that's what the contract is. Who prepared this contract?
I did, Your Honor.
So I'm not looking at any of this.
Okay.
You have to understand that because this is the contract terms say any change in the contract has to be in writing and signed by both parties. You added this when?
Prior to signing it.
Oh, okay. Is that correct? Prior to signing it, she says paid by check, and this may change to 4:30 to 5:30. Need to finalize the ceremony time. I assume that was before this was signed because you did in fact pick them up at 4:30, despite the fact that your contract says from 5 to 6.
We try to be accommodating.
No, that's not what I said.
I'm sorry?
What I said was the plaintiff says that she added this, that the contract time could change before she signed it. And that would seem to be correct because you wrote from 5 to 6 and actually you picked them up at 4:30.
Right.
Okay. So what you're saying is they only provided half of the service.
Correct.
And when you were dropped off, you didn't know what the circumstances were of the hour that your mother had contracted.
No, because it was a surprise.
Okay, so they arrived at 4:30, they dropped you off at 5:05.
Yes.
Ball is in your court. Who was the driver? And? Go ahead.
We did indeed pick them up at the park.
Pick them up on time. That's not the issue.
And there were photographs taken there. And I made note of the photographers, and they went around the carriages and took professional photos. And then we traveled that route as opposed to a straight direct route because there's a pretty big hill, so we didn't want the horse to slip. Plus, it would give them a longer ride.
No, they contracted for an hour, but you only kept them out for 35 minutes.
In that hour, we also figured into that we would be doing photos. So we figured we would be held up at the bridge and the gazebo so that we would be well within our time and probably over because sometimes the photographers...
What I'm saying is they paid for an hour. They didn't get an hour's worth of ride.
We got to the inn sometime after 5. They have a picture that documents it as 5:07. They took some other photos, and then the bride and the groom, well, we expected, I left the gazebo because I found no photographers there at all. So we left the gazebo and went up the hill, and I thought, well, maybe the photographers are up there because we've done lots of weddings, and I've been told, well, the photographer's going to be here, the photographer's going to be there, and they haven't been. So as I was looking for the photographers and didn't see them, I couldn't stop and wait because it's very busy down there on that walkway, and I didn't want to hold up any traffic. There's children, there's dogs, and I wanted to keep the horse moving. So then when
I'm just asking you this question. You're getting... When you dropped off the bride and groom in front of the reception area, and where was that?
The Lowell Inn in Stillwater, Minnesota.
At the inn, did you say to them, you can have this carriage ride for another 25 minutes if you like?
I was hoping that the photographers would come out, and then I figured the time would be used up with the photographers taking pictures there. Someone jumped out of the carriage. They were going to go in and check and find the photographers and bring them back out so that we could have... It's a beautiful inn, and it would make for great photos. So we stopped, and he hopped out. He was going to go get somebody.
Oh, the groom?
It wasn't the groom. It wasn't the groom.
Who went in to look for the photographer?
Nobody did, Your Honor. The only thing that happened was when we pulled up to the Lowell Inn, the reception hall, nobody was there. And the driver asked if anybody had a cell phone to take pictures with. And I asked my husband to pull out his cell phone and gave it to the best man, who was his brother. The best man got out and took pictures of the pictures we gave you.
Were you expecting a photographer to be there?
I did not know any of this because it was a surprise.
Well, were you there?
I was not there, but I sent the photographers to the bridge, and I had told them the day before the photographers would be on the bridge, and they were on the bridge at 5.
Your problem, Miss Paul, is that I don't think that these people cheated you. I don't think that, A, the communication that you made to your daughter was nil because it was a surprise.
Correct.
And you weren't there to let everybody know what was going on. And it does not require pictures on the bridge, by the way, your contract. All it says is that they are to provide carriage services for 1 hour. And they could have sat in front of the inn. Did you go into the inn at some point?
Yes.
At what time did you go into the inn?
10 after 5, we went in.
Okay, so then you left the carriage outside.
Yes.
So at 10 after 5, you went into the inn with now your husband.
Yes.
Well, what did you want them to do?
Well, the ride, okay, so I had all of our guests up at Pioneer Park, and we started walking down to the inn, because again, it was just approximately 3 blocks away. I actually myself walked down to the inn. Her father, he drove down. None of us saw the carriage at all. It was gone. Well, it wasn't there. But they were supposed to get an hour ride and be delivered at 5:30. We had guests arriving at 5:10 to 5:30.
It wasn't communicated to your daughter. She went inside. She left the carriage. She left. Her father could have said, listen, we have the carriage until 5:30. Let's wait until 5:30. Take some pictures. We'll find the photographer. Somebody should have been there to coordinate it.
When the carriage left, I did tell the kids they had a 1-hour carriage ride. Put your feet up and relax.
Well, that's just a second. Great. But they left the carriage.
Well, they weren't watching the clock, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm not watching the clock either. You have no case. And nice pictures. Are you happily married?
Yes, I am.
Good for you. Case is dismissed. We're done.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I went over everything with the carriage people the day before.
Yeah, back and forth about just, I didn't get what I wanted.
I told them the timeline. I told them where the photographers were.
And she kept going back to the photographers, and I'm like, I don't control the photographers.
And they just made the ride last 35 minutes and totally wrecked the whole timeline.
And if she didn't want to tell her daughter, she certainly could have told somebody else that was in the carriage.
I was shocked. I really was. It wrecked the evening for me.
That wouldn't have let it go that it was a surprise.
It really did. And I did not tell her anything until the next day because I didn't want her wedding destroyed.
You've been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Where do I begin with this case? Mr. Grant, you work for a used car lot?
Yes, Your Honor.
Before you sold her a car, did you know Miss McMahon? Before you sold... I don't know what this means. Before you sold
Yes.
her a car, did you know
I had
Miss
met her
McMahon?
before, Your Honor.
How?
Through a mutual friend.
How long before?
A couple of days.
And other than that first meeting through a mutual friend, you'd had no contact with her?
Absolutely.
So you had no idea who she was or her background?
Yes.
And she came in and she found a car in your used car lot?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of a car did she find?
A 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
How much was the car?
Total, it was $7,000.
Did you negotiate a price with her?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what was the negotiated price?
Due to her credit, she was going to put $2,500 down, $600 a month to pay out the remaining $7,000.
She was going to put $2,500 down and then pay how much a month for how long?
$600 a month, and I think the contract was for 9 months.
Just a second. $600 a month for 9 months.
Yeah.
So for the year, the car was $7,000. It was going to cost her an additional $900.
With the interest and the tax and licensing and stuff, yes.
Okay. So far, is that correct?
Correct.
And according to you, Miss McMahon had some money in cash to give you. How much money did she have?
It was actually about $426.
$426.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she had a check.
Yes, Your Honor.
The check was made out to her.
Yes, Your Honor.
For how much?
$2,000.
Now it gets dicey. So you had a check for $2,000 from what?
A settlement from State Farm.
For what?
A car accident I was in March.
Was the money for the car or injuries?
For injuries.
And the check was for $2,000 even?
Yes.
Had you negotiated that settlement by yourself or did you have a lawyer?
It was by myself.
And you settled with them for $2,000?
Yes.
They sent you a check?
Yes.
And you were going to use that check to help pay the down payment?
Yes.
So you had $426 plus the $2,000 check would have been enough for the down payment.
I had $900 cash.
Is that what you gave him?
Yes.
Do you have proof of that?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
It's on my phone. When I first flew here yesterday, my phone just stopped working.
I don't want to hear about bad phones, good phones. When you buy a used car, you have a receipt. Not on your phone, you have a receipt. Do you have the receipt, Mr. Grant?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I want to look at. You have a sales contract.
There's the purchase order.
I have this.
Down payment, $2,500. And the balance to be financed was $4,886.41, and the adjusted negotiated price was $64.99.
Okay.
Oh, give
Permission
this
to
back to her,
speak.
please. I'm not interested in that.
Permission to
That's
speak.
nonsense. Okay. The down payment, you signed it. This is a contract. Buyer's signature, his signature, $2,500 down payment. You gave him a check for $2,000. You put the check into your personal account?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
She came in, she was in a rental car, paying $100 every day for a rental car. She gives me the sad single mom story, this and that. She didn't have a bank account, so she brought the check to like a check cashing place. They were gonna deduct so much money for cashing the check. She couldn't come up with the $2,500 if she was to do that. I had called Farmers Insurance. They told me it was a real check, a real settlement
You can't
check.
tell me what they told you.
Okay.
Actually, you can't tell me what they told you, so I'm totally disregarding that.
Okay.
You took the check and you went to your bank.
With Stacy. I asked my bank if she endorses the check to me, there wouldn't be any
Why
fees.
can't she endorse the check over to the company that you work for?
Because how my company is, or I don't know with any other company, we cannot take a check endorsed. It has to be made out to the company.
I see. Okay, it's reasonable. So you put the check in, and then what happened?
I deposited the check on May 2nd. On May 3rd, I had withdrew $1,500 for the deposit. I had loose cash. I was going to leave the remaining balance in my account with the money I already had in my account. I pulled out $1,500, adjusted the price with the $2,000 with the cash that I had, and I signed the paperwork on the 3rd with Stacy, giving her the down payment, which in return goes
Why
back to my
didn't you
company.
take out the whole $2,000? The down payment here says $2,500.
Technically, the check had not cleared yet. Even though my standings with the bank was available to me, it was still took a 5-day hold on the bank.
So what'd you take out $1,500 for if it hadn't cleared?
Because I
And
wanted.
what do you mean you adjusted the price? What does that mean you adjusted the price?
Not the price of the vehicle. I had cash outside of the bank. I took out the $1,500 and left the balance in my bank for Stacy.
Just a second. You left the $500 in your account for her.
No, I pulled the $1,500 out for Stacy.
What was the other $500 doing?
I already had that in my pocket. I left $500 in my account.
Ah, two scammers. Anyway, what happened with the check?
She refused to settle, and they pulled the check back.
If I were to call Farmers Insurance, would they tell me that this check was paid?
That it was paid?
Paid!
I don't know what they. Can I talk, please?
No, you're going to answer my question.
I don't know what they would tell you. They told me when I cashed it, that means I settle. They say, when you cash this check, that means you agree to settle. I cashed it because I needed a car. I wanted to settle. I wanted the $2,000 to get a vehicle.
Of course, they said to you, if you cash this check, that means you accept this settlement.
Yeah.
So what he says you did was you gave him the check, which looks like a perfectly valid check, that he was cashing at his bank. And then you said to them, I'm not settling with you.
Nope. I did not. I would not do that, and I did not do that.
Okay. We'll get a number for Farmers Insurance and find out. We'll recall this case. Thank you.
Please excuse, this case will be recalled.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If it will be clear to the local police department that she committed grand larceny, unless, madam, you are prepared to return the car. Are you prepared to return the car?
And later today,
I heard like someone was kicking in her door, and I had no idea what was going on. So my wife runs downstairs. In the meantime, I'm getting dressed.
Just a second. You hear pounding at the door, you had no idea what was going on, and your wife went down to answer the door?
Yes.
My kind of guy.
sale of a car.
Yeah, this is a recall of case number 93 on the calendar in the matter of Grant versus McMahon.
Thank you.
Parties are reminded you're still under oath.
Okay. Let me tell you this, Mr. Grant. I have, in fact, communicated with Farmers. And you are absolutely correct. Ms. McMahon did not cash that check because she did not accept the settlement. She gave you that check fraudulently, knowing that she was not going to sign the settlement agreement because the claim that you made against the insured of Farmers is still pending because you declined to accept the $2,000 settlement. So this is what my order is going to be, sir. First, that you will go with a marshal and pick up the car. That's one. And that she committed fraud and grand larceny. Just a second. And I am going to give you a copy of this tape so that it will be clear to the local police department that she committed grand larceny, unless, madam, you are prepared to return the car. Are you prepared to return the car?
I'll return it.
Perfect.
Fine, whatever.
Perfect.
I didn't do any
Just
of this.
Just a second. Right now, you are not out any money. You drove the car for a month. At best, you paid him $400. At best, if I believe that. So if you're prepared to return the car, I don't have to do the rest. The rest is grand larceny, because that's what you committed when you gave him that check, knowing that you had not filed and signed the settlement of claim. So when are you going to return the car?
As soon as I fly back. But I did not.
Just a second. That's all I want to know. You are returning the car day after tomorrow.
That's fine.
In the same condition that you got it.
That's fine.
Do you understand?
Yes.
I no longer work for that company.
She's returning the car to the company. And the court is therefore entering a judgment in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Bye, folks.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Yeah, it never pays to be the nice guy. You know, car guys get such a bad rap for being hustlers and this and that.
When I was given that check, I was told if I cash it, it means I settle.
And you actually go above and beyond to try and help somebody out, and this is what happened.
But then I needed a car to have for my kids because I had no vehicle, and so I cashed it thinking...
She told me she was going to bring me back the car while I still work for that company.
I was settling, choosing to settle. I didn't know that because I hadn't signed the paperwork. I did none of this intentionally, and he should know that.
But I ended up losing my job because of this.
Because I'm not like that, dude. My word's my word, and I'm not like that.
I try to help out a single mom, and this is what I get.
And now...
Because he's a liar.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter, Spencer versus Kornfeld. Step forward.
23-year-old Blake Spencer is suing William Kornfeld for the return of money he paid for rims he never received.
Mr. Spencer, what do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer.
What kind of car do you drive?
Kia Optima, 2012.
And the rims alone that you purchased from the defendant, you purchased them online from him?
Yes, I did. On a forum specifically for our car.
And you spent $1,000 for that?
Yes, I did.
And they were used rims?
Yes, they were from his car originally.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of business are you in?
Automotive retail, online.
What kind of business are you in now?
Construction.
Where were you keeping your stuff?
I had an office space.
Where?
Originally in Santa Ana.
And was that an office or was it a warehouse?
It was an office.
How big?
The office space was approximately 500 square feet with a storage facility that didn't belong to me that was approximately 2,000 square feet.
That you used?
It was owned by my best friend at the time, so I was granted some permissions, but it was a sandblasting facility, so it was quite dirty.
Now, why were you selling the rims from your personal car?
I had purchased a new car and was just taking that car apart and getting ready to turn it in from the lease.
So you had added those rims yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you purchased from somebody else?
Correct.
Who did you purchase them from?
Amazon.
So they were new?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay for them, new?
I don't remember. Somewhere between $300 and $350 a wheel, so approximately $1,400.
It's what young people do.
I do too.
You do too?
Yeah.
You've spent a lot of money on just the wheels?
Oh, no, not on wheels. I use Amazon.
Oh, it gets worse, Your Honor.
No, not as you get older. As you get older, you get smarter.
I wouldn't do it again.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The rims, but they had to be, I don't know, polished, or they had to be re-chromed or whatever, and you said that you would do that for him.
Correct.
So he left them with you, and he left them with you for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
How long?
over a year.
And where were they for the year?
Sitting in the corner of my front storage area right next to my packing and shipping table.
Was that in the office?
Yes.
In Santa Ana? So where are his rims?
They're gone now. They endured 2 separate moves, one from our office in Santa Ana to our office in Laguna Hills. And then once our landlords stopped paying the rent on the facility I was in there, a lot of things were locked into that unit when we were locked out. And some stuff moved into private storage facility.
But not his rims?
No, his rims moved into a private storage facility.
Who owns that private storage facility?
At the time, it was Smart Stop Self-Storage.
Did you own it?
Well, I was renting the space from them for a monthly cost.
So then it moved into the storage space.
Correct.
And then what happened?
I had to pay to store them.
And?
So once the business closed, I could no longer afford to pay the storage fees for all of the various parts. So I started liquidating various, components of the inventory that I had left. And his wheels were sold.
So you sold them twice?
Correct.
Great. How much did you pay for the wheels?
$1,000.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
You may step out. Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Multiple attempts to come and pick up the wheels that he purchased after meeting with him a number of times.
He never told me to pick them up. The agreement was that he would repaint them, and he never got around to doing that.
I contacted him multiple times. I met him at the powder coating shop to pick out colors, all sorts of things went down after the actual point of sale.
And he never let me know that he was going to resell them.
After spending $1,000 and waiting 2 years, you'd think he would have picked them up and had more a sense of urgency with doing so. It just never happened.
The fact that he sold them twice and they were my property means that I think I deserve the money.
Just the cost of doing business. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cedrone versus Mushir. Step forward.
18-year-old Amanda Cedrone and her father, David, are suing motorist Aisha Mushir for an accident on the road.
Mr. Cedrone, I assume that you are here, sir, because you are the registered owner of this car. Is that correct? You were not there at the time of the accident.
At the time of the accident, no.
You can have a seat. Mr. Cedrone, you had borrowed your father's car, or was this your car?
It's my father's car.
That you had borrowed that
Yes.
day? And you were in a car accident with the defendant. You claimed that it was her fault. You want her to pay for the damage to your car, which was not terribly significant. And she says she had minimal damage to her car. The time that you were driving the car, Ms. Mushir, you're an Uber driver.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you had a passenger in your car?
Yes.
And is this your passenger?
Yes.
Had she been a regular passenger of yours? Had you driven her before?
No. I just get calls and...
I know, but you had not met her before that, the day of the accident. On what day was the accident, Ms. Cedrone?
February 2nd, 2016.
Is that your map?
Yes.
Want to go over and show me? What time of the day was it?
It was about 12:15 p.m.
Where were you going?
I was on my way to school.
Okay.
Okay, so I was on my way to school. I go there 3 days a week, every week. I was on Perry Hall Boulevard in the left-hand turn lane. I was at a red light waiting for my green arrow. The arrow turned green, and I had proceeded to make my turn into the left-hand turn lane of Rossville Boulevard. And I saw the defendant was making a right on red, and she was inching out a little bit, so I intentionally stayed in my lane, the lane closest to me, and then she made the right on red, and then she came into my lane and hit me.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, I'll take a look at it. Maybe that could change my mind, but I have a witness who says that you came into her lane.
And she also told the officer that she turned on the yellow light. But then when her dad got there, he said, no, Amanda, it was green.
888-8888. Aisha Mushir owes for a car accident.
Now, what I'm asking you is, she had an arrow permitting her to turn?
Yes, she was in the
turn lane.
The turn lane, yes.
And you were making a right turn?
Yeah.
And you can make a right turn on red?
Yes.
And you were making a right turn on red?
Yes.
Okay. You want to go over to your board?
Okay.
So what you are saying is, now I'm looking at the photographs, what you're saying is she came into your lane and she says you came into her lane.
Yes, she came.
Okay. But we agree on this. We agree that you were making your right turn on red.
Yes.
And we agree that you had the right to make a left turn.
Yes.
Okay. Now, were you watching what was going on around you, or were you busy doing something else? You were in the back seat?
I was in the back seat.
Tell me your name.
Sharon Ellerby.
Miss Ellerby, do you remember the point where the cars collided?
Yes, I do.
Did you get out of the car?
I did not.
Did you hear any conversation between the plaintiff and the defendant?
No, I did not. What I did see was when she made the turn, I noticed that this young lady came over into our lane and hit her wheel well.
So you're certain that the plaintiff,
yes,
when she made the turn wide?
Wide, correct.
Okay. Do we have a police report?
The police couldn't take a report because...
They didn't, so they did not. Did anyone take a photograph of exactly where the cars were at the time of the collision?
I do not have a photograph. I have a video of my perspective of driving it, and then I have pictures of the damages of the car, but I don't have a picture of the road.
Well, that's actually the most important aspect of this case.
I have pictures of the road.
At the time of the accident?
Not at the time of the accident.
Well, I don't want you to go back. I mean, is there a skid mark? Was there any debris?
No,
that would be
nothing
telling.
like that.
Okay, by the way, did you see this lady there that day?
I did.
Okay, so she was just a passenger in the car. She was the witness. She says that you came over into her lane.
I had the right of way. I had a left arrow, and I made that turn, and I saw her inching out to make the right on red, so I stayed in the lane closest to me, just in case she did come into my lane, and she did. But I have pictures to show the damage.
Well, I'll take a look at them. Maybe that could change my mind, but I have an independent witness who says that you came into her lane.
And she also told the officer that she turned on the yellow light. She told the officer that. But then her dad got there. He said, no, Amanda, it was green. And when I spoke to the insurance companies, to my...
No, don't tell me what you said.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by...
Sleep disturbances keep 1 in 3 adults up at night. Only REM-Fresh uses ion-powered melatonin to deliver up to...
Question is, was it your fault or not?
No, Your Honor. She came into my lane, and her left front bumper is damaged. My right front fender...
I had a scrape on my bumper, and I actually got out of my car and went back to her because I had pulled my car on the side to get out of traffic.
But did you hear any conversation between either the plaintiff and the defendant or police officers when they came?
It was only one officer.
One officer. You heard no conversation?
I did not.
And as certain as you are that you heard no conversation, is that how certain you are that the plaintiff came into the defendant's lane?
Absolutely.
Okay. The case is dismissed. Good job.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Insurance shouldn't have to pay for it.
Their investigation, I was not at fault.
Oh, the investigation, yeah, they couldn't do anything. They denied all claims.
And hopefully, she drives a little more carefully.
But the police did say to me at the end, green always wins.
Accept responsibility for what you've done.
Keep driving correctly.
Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Kearns, how long were you and Miss Baker roommates?
Approximately 6 months, Your Honor.
Did you move into her home?
No, Your Honor.
She moved into yours? Or you moved in together?
The way that it happened, Your Honor, was I rented a two-bedroom condo with one of my friends at the time. About 3 months in, it was determined that we could no longer live together. The roommate at that time decided to just kind of pack up his stuff and move, leaving me to pay the full rent amount, which I could not do. The landlord gave me the ultimatum, basically, that I could either be evicted or pay the full amount, neither of which were acceptable to me. She came back slightly later and said, I have a friend, the friend was Miss Shelley Baker, who needs a place to stay, and if you allow Miss Baker to live with you, then you can resume paying the normal rent amount. So
why did you need a place to stay?
I was in between homes. I was actually homeless for about 7 days. I had collected about $1,900, and Denver is the rental market there is bad.
How do you know?
I needed like $2,400, so I had moved all my stuff into storage, and then I was homeless for a few. And then Jerry is a good friend of mine, the landlord, who is my landlord also. And she said,
just a second.
So move in.
The landlord is not only a friend of yours, but was your landlord in another premise?
She is my landlord right now, Your Honor. I still live there, and Mr. Carnes doesn't live there.
Do you have a roommate?
Yes.
Mr. Kearns, at some point, things did not go well between you and the defendant. How much into her tenancy did that happen?
Very shortly thereafter.
As soon as she moved in?
I would say probably 2 weeks to a month after that, it was determined that we would not live together peacefully.
When did you start to live there?
January 2016.
Is that right?
Yes, that sounds about right.
And you started to look for a new place somewhere in February, sometime in February.
Very, very shortly after Miss Baker moved in.
Fine. Okay. So your problem is that you claim that Miss Baker either kept or disposed of some of your property. That's what your lawsuit is about. And Miss Baker has a counterclaim. She says that you damaged her motorcycle. What was the date that you moved out?
I started moving on March 30th, continued moving on March 31st.
And you had paid March's rent.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. The agreement was that I would be out by midnight on April 1st, which I had planned to do. However, Miss Baker decided to lock me out of the apartment.
How many trips did you make back and forth to get your property?
3 to 5, I would say.
Let's say 5.
Okay.
And you have a car?
Correct.
What items did you leave behind?
The largest ticket item is going to be my California King bed set.
California King?
Very large bed.
The large bed.
A bed?
Huge bed.
Very large bed.
Oh,
I had a large leather sofa, a small leather sofa, a matching leather ottoman, a dresser, an entertainment stand.
Just a second. Okay. And do you acknowledge that the furniture was the stuff that he left? He took...
Yes, he just left the heavier items, the bedroom items, basically. The couch and everything is in the garage. It's not part of the house. We have a garage also, and the couch, like he's got the cushions, I've got the couch, so it's all out in the garage. There is some of those items in the garage still.
Which items are in the garage?
The couch, the ottoman, the love seat, those 3 items.
What about the king bed?
That was removed when I got another roommate. So he was out March 31st. I don't know where April 1st came from. It's March 31st.
Fine. So the only thing that you disposed of was the king-size bed.
That's incorrect. He actually left several items. Like, here's his remote.
Listen to me. Some things that... This is not show and tell. Put that down.
No, but I mean...
Put it down. I'm talking. Pay attention.
Okay.
You say that you have everything with the exception of the king-size bed in your garage.
No, that's incorrect.
Then I misunderstood you. What do you have in the garage?
In the garage, I have miscellaneous kitchen items. I have...
Where is the sofa?
It's in the garage.
Well, where is the dresser?
That was removed out of the bedroom. I just needed to clear the bedroom for a new roommate.
Just a second. Shh. Just look at me.
Okay.
Bedroom. Where is the entertainment center?
That was removed when I had to get a new roommate.
When you say removed, what did you do with it?
Actually, at the instruction of the landlord.
No. You can't tell me what...
It was removed so I could allow room for a new roommate.
Miss Baker, I want you to listen to what I'm saying to you. Where did you remove it to?
Outside.
So you put the entertainment center...
Right.
What kind of an entertainment center was it?
I don't...
What kind of an entertainment center was it?
It was similar to the dresser. It was black metal with a diamond plate design on it, like the stuff that you see in garages.
Okay.
The entertainment stand is obviously much larger than the dresser. It's meant to accommodate, a TV as well as a stereo and some add-on items like DVD
Now,
players.
I want you to tell me, sir, you pay rent on the 1st of the month, correct? So you paid March's rent.
Correct.
And you made 5 trips back and forth to pack up. You had found a new apartment?
Correct.
And I would assume that by March 31st, you had made arrangements for a truck or a U-Haul to come back to pick up your large ticket items.
That is very correct.
And what happened when you got there with the U-Haul truck?
Miss Baker locked me out.
Now, what U-Haul place did you actually rent the truck from?
U-Haul Moving and Storage of Green Mountain.
May I see, is that your contract with them?
It's an invoice.
I'd like to see it. Perfect. So I want you to tell me what happened when he arrived with the U-Haul.
He's under the interpretation that the door was locked. I'm actually deaf in one of my ears, Your Honor. I literally have a 75% loss in this ear. It's important what I'm going to say. So after he left, he didn't tell me he was getting a U-Haul that day. It was not vengeful. I actually fell asleep. He had been moving stuff for 2 days. I fell asleep, and I fell asleep on my good ear, so he must have knocked at the door. And I know, if it doesn't happen very often, but I won't hear an alarm if I fall asleep on that ear. And I do have the doctor record that shows like a 75%
I'm not
loss.
interested in your doctor's record. March 31st, had the locks been changed, Mr. Kearns?
No, Your Honor. What happened was there were 2 doors. There was a standard door and then like a glass screen door. I did not have the key to the glass screen door, and that is the one that Miss Baker locked.
Why? Why didn't you have a key to that screen door?
If I recall correctly, there was no outside lock. But regardless, the fact remains I was never given a key to that screen door. I did contact the landlord at this point. The landlord lived 3 doors away from us, and she informed me that if I were
you can't. Just a second.
Sure.
You can't tell me what the landlord informed you. Had you locked the screen door?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, you had absolutely no right to get rid of his stuff. He did present to me evidence that he had gotten a U-Haul on the 31st.
I would like to... Really, my full defense is I'm not the landlord. I only did what was instructed.
You were the one who put the stuff outside.
After the landlord did her 10-day notice pursuant to the lease.
You were the one who put the stuff outside.
At the instruction of the landlord, Your
I don't
Honor.
know that. Is the landlord here?
I can show that I rented the space right afterwards.
I don't care.
Or that she did.
I don't care.
Okay. I did remove the stuff because I needed to get another roommate at the instruction of the landlord. Okay.
I know you keep saying it, but I'm totally ignoring it.
I'm not the landlord.
I'm totally
I wasn't even his roommate.
Listen to me. I'm totally ignoring it.
I know that.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He purposely damaged my Harley Davidson, and I have the estimate. That's all I'm interested in.
I have an email with the landlord that states I'm just saying that states
I don't want you to just say. I want you to tell me about the Harley.
And later today,
the plaintiff knew that there was cigarette smoke in the house.
What you said to him was, as an accommodation,
yes,
we will smoke outside.
Yeah, we'll limit the smoking.
And he says that didn't happen.
Says his former roommate, Shelley Baker, owes for the return of his belongings. Shelley is countersuing for property damage.
Now, all I want is the bills for the furniture that you are claiming is worth $4,000. Okay, and where did you purchase the sofa from, sir?
The sofas were a gift from my mother.
Okay. Did you replace them?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have the bills for replacing them?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. They looked as if they were perfectly reasonable condition. Okay, great. The entertainment center, you didn't replace it, I assume.
The entertainment center was replaced. That is included in there.
In the $1,200?
Yes, from the
In the
American
$1,200.
Yes,
all right, that comes to $2,509. Both of those items, including the bed, the replacing of the bed.
I still have the couch and the love seat and the ottoman of that.
Where are they?
They're in the garage.
Except he replaced them.
He never came back to get his stuff.
$2,509. You can keep the couch. Now,
can I?
Let's get briefly to your alleged counterclaim. Okay. You want to tell me what you're suing him for?
Well, Your Honor, the reason he was evicted to start with, I would like to present this supplemental report. It's important. I was scared for my life.
Listen to me carefully.
How do I present this report to you?
Your counterclaim is that he purposely damaged my Harley Davidson, and I have the estimate. That's all I'm interested in.
Okay.
Tell me when he did that and under
what
circumstances.
In the 2 days that he did the 5 trips back and forth, and I allowed he was in there and had free will. He told me he would be back with the U-Haul on his next day off, and I have an email with the landlord that states I'm just saying that states
I don't want you to just say. I want you to tell me about the Harley.
I'm going to, Your Honor. In between the 2 days that he had moved and the next day off, I went out to the garage, and every single one of my boxes was dumped upside down in the garage. All my personal pictures, all my antique dolls, all of my electronics had been pushed off the table. It was in complete shambles. And I go, oh, my God, he literally trashed all of my stuff. And at that point, I became very fearful, and I told him that he needed to get.
Would you tell me about the Harley, please?
Yep. He told me that he needed to get a civil assist, is what I told him after he trashed my stuff. The Harley was knocked over. My pictures, my artwork was ruined.
Objection, Your Honor.
Just a second.
See?
All I want to know is about the Harley, because that's what's here in your counterclaim.
There was damage, Your Honor, to my Harley Davidson.
Show me. And the estimate for repair.
I don't have either one of those.
Well, then your counterclaim's dismissed.
I apologize.
Just stay cool.
Gosh, I don't know. Thank you.
I'm telling you.
Okay, right on. Thank you. And I also have a text thing that shows that Matt did dump my stuff out by his words in the text?
I would like to see photographs of the Harley.
Okay. Here you go. I didn't do it. I stopped myself. That is not the damage, Your Honor. I don't have that piece of paper in front of me.
Well, that's all I'm interested in seeing.
Right there's the estimate that will tell you, I guess.
The count of claims dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,509. We're done.
Wow.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The landlord asked me to get him out.
Judgment was fair today.
I fell asleep on my good ear.
She locked the glass door.
I did not hear the door knock. He did not tell me that he was getting a U-Haul that day and moving out, and I fell asleep.
For at least another good 5-10 years, I think I'll be living by myself only.
Up to 18. And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of LeBlanc versus Tipper. Step forward.
20-year-old Meredith LeBlanc is suing her co-workers, Cindy Tipper, and her son, 17-year-old Nicholas, for the cost to replace a damaged iPhone.
Miss LeBlanc, how old are you?
I'm 20.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 17 years old.
This is your mother.
Yes.
And you work.
Yes, I do.
And you and Miss LeBlanc work at a trampoline park?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you had an accident with her phone?
Yes, there was an accident.
When did that happen?
I do not know the exact date, but it was about a month ago.
September 24th.
Tell me about the accident.
So me and Mary were sitting at the break room. It was
Mary and I.
Mary. Sorry, ma'am. Mary and I were sitting at the break room.
Sitting in the break room.
And she put her phone on an empty pizza box. I stabbed the pizza box with a pen that I had. It's not an unlikely thing to happen at the job. It's
just
not that weird. Sorry about that. I stabbed the pizza box.
Young man, listen, young men who are 17 often do stupid things.
That's true.
Stabbing a pizza box is probably just one of the stupid things that young men who are 17 do. So you were stabbing the pizza box?
Once, yes.
Was it a large pizza, a medium pizza, or a small pizza?
I believe a large pizza.
Who had ordered the pizza?
A customer for a birthday party. It was an empty pizza box. It was garbage.
Okay, and it was just sitting on the top of the table in the break room?
Yes, ma'am.
So you took a pen. Where was the pen that you used to stab the pizza box?
It was on my lanyard.
So you didn't take it off your head. You used it while it was attached to you?
No, I took the pen off of the lanyard. I stabbed the pizza box, but that's not what flipped the phone. Mary had put her phone on the pizza box, and when I took the pen out of the pizza box, because she didn't move it from when I first
just a second. So you stabbed it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you went to pull it out?
Yes, after a couple
just
seconds.
a second. And when you pulled it out, what happened?
The pizza box flipped open, the lid unfolded, and the phone flew across the table into a pitcher of fruit punch.
Okay. And it was damaged because it's not waterproof?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yes, it didn't have a case on it.
And you're 17 years old, which I find the fact that you have a job and that you work and that your mom says that you have to be responsible because that's what people do, I find that to be a good thing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great. So that as a responsible young man, the first thing that you say is, oh, gee whiz, I'm so sorry. I was acting like a stupid kid, like a baby, and I'm so sorry I damaged your phone. I'll replace it. Is that what you said to her?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you say next?
I asked her how her phone was doing, and she said that she immediately picked up a new phone.
And what did you say? Come on.
I said...
Did you think you were going to come here and have fun and it was going to be easy, Nicholas?
No,
it's not going to be easy.
Says her co-worker, Nicholas Tipper, ruined her iPhone when he knocked it into a pitcher of fruit punch.
Go ahead.
The first thing I did was I sent my friend out to a local supermarket store to pick up rice to try to repair the phone.
Okay, but that didn't work.
No, it did not.
Okay, so you did a first responsible thing. You tried to see if it could be repaired.
Yes, I did.
Because you felt
that...
But just a second, you felt...
partially responsible.
Right. Well, she didn't use a pen.
No, she
didn't act like a fool, right?
No.
So that didn't work. So what did you say next?
I asked her how her phone was doing, and she said that she immediately picked up a new phone. And while I do feel partially responsible...
Just a second. She said, I picked up a new phone.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say?
I said, that's good.
Come on.
I said...
did you think you were going to come here and have fun and it was going to be easy, Nicholas?
No,
it's not going to be easy. All right. So you said, that's good. And?
Did you get the new upgrade or did you get your old phone back? And she said that she got the new iPhone 7 upgrade.
Okay. And you said?
And I said, do you want me to pay for it? She said she wanted me to pay $300. I did not feel that I was fully responsible.
Just a second. Well, then you would have said to her, well, how much was your old phone?
Yes.
Because that you would have been responsible for, right?
Yes.
And did she tell you how much her old phone was?
An iPhone 6, which was her old phone, is $300 to replace.
Is $300 to replace it. And she's suing you for $300.
Yes, ma'am.
So?
I found out through other employees at my job.
No, you can't tell me what you found out through other employees. That's hearsay and not admissible. So?
That she only paid the deductible and that...
You mean she had insurance?
That is what I've been told.
No, well, you can't tell me that. You can tell me what you think, but you can't tell me whether or not she has it because somebody else told you that. That's hearsay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning spot.
Like an intelligent young man, you know what hearsay is. It's an out-of-court statement. When offered for the truth of that statement is inadmissible because people can't cross-examine an out-of-court statement. That's what hearsay is.
We have phone numbers of who I found out from.
Who cares? She can't cross-examine them. Now, did you have insurance on the phone? Is my question.
No.
Okay. I don't buy insurance on my phone. When did you buy this iPhone 6?
I bought the iPhone 6 in August of 2015.
You have a bill for that?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so they offered to swap out of warranty for Exact Life device for $299.
Yes, that would be a new
great.
iPhone 6.
Great. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. We're done. Thank you.
You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
This all behind us.
She was partially responsible for the phone being destroyed.
They thought it was my fault for putting my phone on the box.
Even though bad things can happen, people can still be civil with each other and have a working relationship.
Don't mess around at work.
Just glad that a decision was made one way or another. We're good.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Wood versus Lane. Step forward.
William Wood is suing his former landlord-to-be, 20-year-old Alexa Lane, for reimbursement of storage fees and the return of a security deposit.
Mr. Wood, you rented a room from the defendant. You gave her a security deposit. It is your claim that she told you that you couldn't move in. You want your security deposit back, plus a whole bunch of other damages, which is actually sort of ridiculous. Miss Lane is counterclaiming. She said you signed a lease and you backed out at the last minute. She wants you to pay the remainder of the month's rent. So it's very simple. You found this room on Craigslist?
Correct.
And you went to see it on what date?
On the day of the 26th, or the 27th is our first time we meet in person.
27th of what?
January 27th of 2016.
And when did you sign a lease?
The lease was partially signed, not fully signed, on February 22nd after I gave the deposits.
Okay. May I see what you're talking about, a partially signed lease?
I have the lease.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay. This one was actually signed by another tenant, not by William, but this is the same exact lease that he did sign.
Oh, no. I want the lease that he signed.
I don't have that. That wasn't my responsibility to bring.
Well, it is your responsibility to bring it, Miss Lane, because you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is that he violated the terms of the lease.
I do. I have the roommate agreement also, but I've also moved several times in the last year, so...
I don't care, actually.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She says to you, I can't give you a key until the rent is paid.
Correct, and I state that I understand that, but I can't pay her the rent if she doesn't allow me to actually move my things in.
No, that's not true. You sign a lease, you pay a month's rent, and then you get a key.
Odd says Alexa Lane owes for storage fees and a security deposit. Alexa has a countersuit for lost wages and harassment.
Now, if you don't have the proof that he violated the terms of the lease because you don't have a written lease, then you don't have a counterclaim.
Okay.
Okay, so you can't show me a lease that somebody else signed, but it was the same as he signed. Okay. So now I'd like to see what you have as a partial lease, sir.
I would not receive a copy from her. She refused to give me a copy upon request.
Okay, so then I don't have to worry about it. I do not have a written lease.
Yes.
Easy.
Correct.
Okay. And you gave her how much?
I gave her $200 security deposit,
Fine.
which she gave me electronic.
On February 22nd?
Yes, February 22nd.
When were you supposed to move in?
I told her I was move in a week before my lease ended.
What date
Oh,
were you
sorry.
supposed to move
March
in?
8th.
Now tell me what happened so that you didn't move in on March 8th.
On March 8th, I reached out to her with my first attempt to get a key to move in. And within the course of 4 days, I reached out to her 3 times.
Okay, so you were supposed to move in on March 8th?
Correct.
And prorate rent for the month
Correct.
of
We had
March?
a verbal agreement that rent would be prorated based on the day that I moved my things into the house.
Okay, so go ahead.
And upon that time, she refused to give me access to the house and did not provide me with the key in a timely manner. If not, didn't even provide me a key at all. At the point of requesting it after 4 days, she refused to give me the key.
Oh, so she refused to give you a key. What did she say when she...
Well, page 5 of our text message documents, I told her if this continues to be an issue, I will like my deposit back.
Okay, let me see your text messages to the
Here's a copy for you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the actual date of him to move in was March 16th, and he harassed me with text messages and phone calls at my workplace and all through the night demanding a key before
untrue.
he ever paid rent.
What would you need for me to be able to rent the room?
Correct. I asked her what...
She says you would need to sign the lease and sign the roommate agreement. So I don't have a signed lease. I don't have a roommate agreement. And pay the first month's rent, which you didn't pay, and a $200 security deposit. So that's what you would need before you ask for a key. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Where I feel that she was discriminatory was the moment that we had the text message conversation on page 5. I tell her information about myself, and upon revealing this information from her, she responds, upon new information, I am uncomfortable with you moving in.
William Wood says Alexa Lane owes for storage fees and a security deposit. Alexa has a countersuit for lost wages and harassment.
Now, before you ask for a key, you had to have a signed lease, a signed roommate agreement, pay her a month's rent, which was how much?
It was prorated.
A month's rent was $275, Your Honor.
Pay $275 plus a $200 security deposit. So the only thing that you did was pay the $200 security deposit.
Correct.
And then you asked her for a key.
No,
Yes,
not.
ma'am.
What I did is I gave her the $200 security deposit, and we had a verbal agreement that on the day
No,
that I move in, it'll be prorated.
Fine, I would like to see that here.
Okay.
Is that anywhere in these?
The verbal agreement? No.
Is that anywhere in here?
No, it's not, ma'am.
No. Okay. Well, that takes care of all the other nonsense, your discrimination against you, whatever.
There was no discrimination, Your
Just
Honor.
a second. She says to you, I can't give you a key until the rent is paid.
Yes, ma'am.
She says that to you.
Correct, and I state that I understand that, but I can't pay her the rent if she doesn't allow me to actually move my things in.
No, that's not true. You sign a lease, you pay a month's rent and a security deposit, and then you get a key.
That's understandable, Your Honor. We had a verbal agreement as to...
That's not here.
Our agreement, the agreement that we discussed was that...
No.
I'm sorry.
Not here. Not in the
don't understand.
messages that you gave me.
Where I feel that she was discriminatory was the moment that we had the text message conversation on page 5. I tell her information about myself, including that I'm a Freemason. And upon revealing this information from her, she responds, upon new information, I am uncomfortable with you moving in.
Your Honor, he informed me he was a Freemason the day he saw the room, and I was totally comfortable with it.
She did not rent the room to anybody else because she assumed that you were going to do what you had to do to rent the room, which was to sign a lease, sign a roommate agreement, pay a month's rent, and pay a security deposit. Of those 4 things that you had to do, you only did 1. Then you demanded access to the room.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now, you demanded access to the room over and over again. You demanded access to the room. That's what you said. I asked for a key 4 times, and she wouldn't give me a key 4 times.
I requested that a time for us to meet, and that way she could give me the key and that I could give her money. And she was not cooperating with me as to a time that we could meet up for me to fulfill our agreement.
That's not true, Your Honor.
And there's text messages where I'm asking her where I want to meet her.
Just a second. She said, I left you numerous voicemails on Thursday afternoon, which you never called back. That's on a Thursday.
Right.
Okay, letting you know I got your calls and was making your key.
She only responded to me once. From
Your Honor,
my
I was a
record.
full-time student. I also worked 2 jobs, and he was
text
harassing
message-
me.
The text
Mr. Wood,
messages state
Mr.
that-
Wood,
Yes.
let's be clear. This was not a good marriage, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
I no longer live there anymore.
Oh, fine. Then give him his $200 back. We're done. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200.
Ma'am, can you have
to
my
count-
countersuit?
No, you have no lease, correct?
I have the lease, just not the signed lease.
No, if you don't have a signed lease, you don't have a lease.
Okay, and it's also for harassment at my workplace.
Forget it.
Okay.
Should have given him his $200 back. He wouldn't have harassed you in the
He
work.
knew the roommate agreement, and it says that if he didn't provide me a 30-day notice written, that he would lose the security deposit because my end was to just hold the room.
$200.
Okay.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
So get clever.
Texted me all through the night, all through the morning. When I was at work, I was a full-time student. He would text me all through class.
That was a complete lie. I have text messages where I'll text her once.
Demanding a key before he even paid rent.
And I did not harass her. One text message every couple of weeks, and it's not harassment at all.
He wanted to put his things in the house before paying rent. I'm not okay with that. So that's how that happened.
She really wasn't a very pleasant person. She just became real nasty towards me.
Never to do it again. That's why I have moved out and it's no longer my property.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Turner versus Smith. Step forward.
Renee Turner is suing bicyclist Brandon Smith for crashing into her parked car.
Ms. Turner, it is your claim that the defendant damaged your car with his bicycle.
Yes.
That he was riding, and you didn't see the incident.
Correct.
Your car was parked at the time, and I assume you have a police report.
I do.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Was yours the only vehicle that was hit?
To my knowledge, yes, but in the accident report, supposedly there was another vehicle in front of mine, and that was what he had run into.
It says here you had been drinking alcohol prior to riding your bike. Is that correct, sir?
Says she was at work when bicyclist Brandon Smith crashed into her parked car.
When did this accident take place?
March 1st?
Of this year?
Of this year.
You were riding your bicycle where, sir?
I was riding it south in Solana Beach on 2nd Street.
What time?
Can't remember off the top of my head, roughly in the afternoon.
Where had you been?
I had been at Pizza Port getting lunch.
What happened?
I was riding, there were parked cars, there was traffic as well. I reached back to grab a drink of water. My bottle is located under my seat. While I was doing that, a car passed dangerously close, lost control of my bike, and I woke up to a passerby holding my head to the ground, saying that I was bleeding profusely and that the ambulance was on its way.
Okay. Now I'd like to see the police report.
Absolutely.
So you're in your place of business?
Yes.
And you heard a commotion outside, ambulances, etc.?
Yes.
You heard commotion. You came out sometime later. What time did you come out?
I didn't come out until after I was finished with work at about 9:30 or 10 that night.
Tell me what you found on your car.
I found this note from the sheriff's
see it.
department. Absolutely.
Okay, so the police officer gave you an event number. It indicates your vehicle was hit by a bicyclist. There was an accident report taken. They gave you a case number, North Coastal Station, which is the police station, the badge number of the police officer, and as a result of this, you took a look at the car.
Right.
Could I see photographs of the car?
Yes, you may.
Basically a very long, deep scratch.
Yes.
And some denting.
Mm-hmm.
Was yours the only vehicle that was hit?
To my knowledge, yes, but in the accident report, supposedly there was another vehicle in front of mine, and that was what he had run into after mine.
It says here you had been drinking alcohol prior to riding your bike. Is that correct, sir?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. It says here you had been drinking alcohol prior to riding your bike. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
Okay. Can I see an estimate for the damage to your car?
Yes. I have 2 estimates. Would you like both?
Yes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,200. We're done. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
To me, told me I had directly done damage to her car.
Oh, he said he was totally compliant.
I apologized and wanted to see what was going on.
He wanted to fix the situation until I sent the assessment of how much it was going to be to fix it.
And then I got an estimate for $3,000, and something was fishy, so I stopped responding to her.
Then he just didn't respond.
And I tried to call her bluff and see if she would actually go with her insurance.
I'm just glad that I'm finally going to be getting my car fixed.
As she should have, but that didn't exactly pay off.
Don't park your car on the street.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter, Tucker versus Gonzalez Dudoreva. Step forward.
Michael Tucker is suing fellow motorist Anna Gonzalez Dudoreva for causing an accident when she made a lane change in an intersection.
This is a car accident that happened in December, is that correct?
Yes.
On the 15th.
Correct.
The stop sign there is where your car was coming from, is that correct? What kind of car were you driving?
Lexus LS400.
What year?
93.
On the 15th of December of last year, did you have insurance on your car?
Yes, I did.
Liability.
Correct.
What kind of car were you driving?
Toyota Solara 2006.
On the 15th of December, did you have liability insurance on your car, and with whom?
Exactly the date I didn't have the insurance.
So that's why we're here. We're here because you didn't have insurance.
Not because of that.
Yes, because of that. Exactly because of that.
Yep.
Okay. So, Mr. Tucker, would you go over so that you can show me exactly what happened? You're coming out of your community and?
I'm coming out of my community. I stop at the stop sign, look left. I see her way up the road in the number 1 lane, which is the one to the left. I look to the right, check for pedestrians. I look left one more time. She's still in her lane, the number 1 lane. So I pull out and occupy the number 2 lane. She decides to change lanes from the number 1 lane into the number 2 lane without signaling. And I was always told that you never change lanes in an intersection anyway. But she hits me. The point of impact happens in the number 2 lane, which clearly shows that she's at fault.
Well, that suggests that you hit her. That diagram suggests that you hit her.
No. And the reason I say that is because I'm...
Well, that's what your diagram shows, that the front of your car hit the rear of her car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by...
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
I'm just telling you, Mr. Tucker,
yes,
that demonstrates that your mock-up of the accident demonstrates that you hit her in the rear.
When I'm at the stop sign, I'm at 0 miles per hour. She's coming down the road at 40. So I get into my lane before she gets to that lane, and she slides over into me and hits me.
Okay, Mr. Tucker, now you can step back. Of course, it's not what she says happened. She says she was in that lane. I don't care what she says, actually. And I usually don't side with the people who are driving without insurance. But based upon what you're telling me, you had a stop sign, and it was your responsibility to stop until the road was clear.
Which it was.
No, it wasn't, because if she's coming down at 40 miles an hour, you're supposed to drive defensively and wait for her to leave.
She was in her number 1 lane, though.
I don't care if she was on Mars. If you see a car barreling down at 40 miles an hour, you wait for that car to pass.
No.
Well, so your case is dismissed. Tell it to somebody else. We're done.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
So lands in the intersection and hit me.
When I was passing the intersection, he hit me.
She told me that she had insurance. We exchanged information.
Just one day, it wasn't insured.
She totally lied to me. She was uninsured.
I'm not a liar. I just didn't know that I didn't have the insurance just one day.
Now, the next case.
All parties in the matter, Whittle versus Young Stearns. Step forward.
Diana Whittle is suing her cousin, 22-year-old Tiara Young, and Tiara's brother, 19-year-old Tashawn Stearns, for the cost to repair a bedroom wall after Tashawn drove a car through it.
Your last name is?
Young.
You own the car?
Correct.
You, Mr. Stearns, you had borrowed the car.
Yes.
Who did you borrow the car from?
My sister Tiara.
On what date? On what date, Miss Whittle?
06/11/16.
Okay, so you borrowed the car from Sierra, and while the car was in your possession, I'm not saying who was driving, but while it was in your possession, you loaned him your car.
Correct.
And while the car was in your possession, it went through Miss Whittle's bedroom wall.
Correct.
And Miss Whittle says it was you who were driving the car.
No.
Who was driving the car?
Her son.
That would be this young man? And you're all cousins.
Yes.
Is this car insured?
Yes.
Was it insured on November 16th?
Yes.
Well, why didn't the insurance cover the damage that was done to her house?
Because at the time of the car, it wasn't Tyshawn Stearns that was driving.
What? Don't talk so fast.
Okay. At the time of the car, when the car hit the house, Tyshawn Stearns was not driving. It was Diana's 15-year-old son who was driving because when Tyshawn...
Just a second. 1 second. It's your car. How old are you?
19.
When did you turn 19?
January 31st.
So at the time of this incident, you were 18?
No, I was 19.
You turned 19 January of 2016?
16, yes.
Okay. And this incident happened in November of 2015. It can't happen November of 2016 because we're not there yet. Do you understand? So at the time of this incident, you were 18?
No.
Am I wrong? Am I not getting it?
It was in June, wasn't it?
No, November of 2000, November 16th.
It was June.
Oh, it was June. Oh my God, why did I have November 16th?
I thought I heard November somewhere in there too, but...
What happened in November?
Nothing.
Nothing that happened in November. It was in June.
June, fine. All right, let's do this as a whole do-over.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How long have you had your driver's license?
I don't. I have my permit.
Why would you give him the car if he only had a driving permit?
Because I was hosting the party.
But he's not allowed to drive.
Well, with the permit.
No, he can't drive without an adult in the car.
Is suing her cousin, 22-year-old Tiara Young, and Tiara's brother, 19-year-old Tyshawn Stearns, for the cost to repair a bedroom wall after Tyshawn drove a car through it.
Okay, so this happened in June. Are you the boy?
Yeah.
You're her son? Stand up. Tell me your name.
Rashard.
Rashawn, were you hanging around that day with Mr. Stearns?
No.
What were you doing?
In my room.
And you never drove the car?
No.
Have you ever driven your mother's car?
My mom doesn't even have a car.
Had you ever driven anyone's car?
No.
Did Miss Young ever let you drive her car?
No.
What's your first name?
Tyshawn.
Did Tyshawn ever let you drive Sierra's car?
No.
You know, you're smiling there, so it doesn't look as if you're telling me the truth. That would not be a good thing if you didn't tell me the truth. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's start all over again. In June, you remember when the wall got hit?
Yeah.
Had you been out with, he's your cousin, right?
Yeah.
Had you been out with your cousin that evening?
No.
At all?
No.
Did you ever see him that evening?
Except for when he crashed the car.
Tell me about that.
All right. He was coming to pick me up for a party.
So you were supposed to see him?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to sneak out the house because I didn't tell my mom. So then when he came, I guess the car crashed into the house. And then, yeah, that's what happened.
So you asked him to come to pick you up to sneak you out of the house to go to a party?
Yes.
And on his way there, he went into your mother's wall?
Yes.
Let me hear your story.
My story, like, me and my sister was having a party at my house. I get a call from Rashad. He tells me to pick him up, and I asked my sister, can I borrow her car to use it to go pick up Rashad? She said yes. So I take the keys and go to his house.
What time was that?
10 something.
Had you been drinking?
No.
Because you wouldn't give him your car if he was drinking. 10 o'clock. How long have you had your driver's license?
I don't. I have my permit.
Why would you give him the car if he'd only had a driving permit?
Because that night I wasn't able to drive at the moment because I was hosting the party. So I gave Tyshawn the car.
But he's not allowed to drive.
Well, with the permit.
No, he can't drive without an adult in the car. You need an adult in the car with you who has a driver's license. You're not allowed to drive.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why you couldn't go through your insurance. Otherwise, you could have gone through your insurance. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by...
Who was driving? Which one of these two people are driving? You're the car owner. You're responsible because you gave somebody your car who had no license to drive, and therefore your insurance company wouldn't cover the wall because an unlicensed driver was driving the car. That's why your insurance company wouldn't cover it. I knew eventually we'd get around to why, because you may not have collision on your car, but you have to have liability. If a driver is driving your car with your permission, your insurance company would cover the damage. But you gave an unlicensed driver permission to drive your car.
Right.
Great. How much is the wall to fix?
It was $1,600.
Let me see your paid bill or check or whatever. Listen, you.
Me?
Yeah, just as soon as Bird gets out of the way, you know, that mountainous body of his is concealing you. Let's go.
That's for the rent. Probably don't need the rent.
Just the bill.
I guess, yeah.
About the car, I don't believe you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Just so that you know, I don't believe you. Because neither one of you was supposed to be behind the wheel of a car, but just in case you actually think that he didn't cause the damage, he did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
So get clever.
At the time of the accident, that it was not him that was driving.
That's a lie. That's a lie. My son wasn't even driving the car.
It was Diane's 15-year-old son that was driving.
My son, I was there. My son was driving. I seen Tashawn driving the car myself when he came up.
I went to go pick up my cousin.
He crashed into the house because I was in the room.
He backs into the house when I go pick him up.
That's crazy.
I was like, that's the wrong thing to do.
I don't know how to drive yet.
Because I feel like I shouldn't be accused of something that I didn't do.
I'm happy. I'm happy. She grant me the money. I'm glad of it.
Not to let my brother use the car since he didn't have insurance or he didn't have a driver's license.
I'm done with him. I'm just done.
She's still gonna be crazy.
What's your more? With Mega Millions drawings of at least $40 million every Tuesday and Friday.
Of a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2130, Laws versus Law, Scales.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Laws, this young woman is your niece.
Yes.
And this young lady is the ward of your niece.
Yes.
You have guardianship over her. Is she related to you?
No, she's related to my wife.
Okay. But you have guardianship.
We both do.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
You had an automobile.
Yes.
It was an automobile that you allowed your niece to use, and it was at her house.
Yes.
That was in September of 2020. Her car was in the shop, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, your niece went out of town for a while?
Yes.
Do you remember what date that was?
October 17th of 2020.
And prior to your going out of town, had Miss Scales ever driven the car?
No.
Had you ever given her permission to drive the car?
No.
And Miss Scales, there did come a time in October of 2020 that you took the car.
Yes.
Tell me how you managed to get a hold of the car.
So the keys, we have a key hook in the front of our house, and I just used the keys there.
Did you ask anyone?
No.
Tell me why.
I had a scare that I was afraid to do by myself.
What kind of?
Around 6 p.m.
And at what time did you have an accident with the car?
I would say between 7 and 8 p.m.
Had you already seen the boyfriend?
No.
Where were you between 7 and 8?
Driving.
Driving to who?
To the boyfriend.
Oh, so it takes a while to get there?
Yes.
How long?
About an hour.
In any event, you had an accident.
Yes.
The car was totaled. You had insurance?
Yes.
And had you told your niece that you had insurance on the car?
Yes.
Okay, because she says that you had told her you had insurance on the car and you had a loan on the car. There was a note.
That's correct.
So when she borrowed the car, she knew it was insured. Did you also tell her that you had the gap insurance?
Yes.
And what year, make, and model of car was it?
A 2015 Mitsubishi Mirage.
Did you buy it new or used?
Brand new.
And how long was the loan on the car?
6 or 7 years. I think it was 6.
So by 2020, you had paid up most of the car.
Yes.
What was the balance left on the car?
I'm not exactly sure the exact balance that was left on the car.
Okay. How much did you pay for the car?
I paid $17,000. That's what it was financed at, so that's not...
2017. You paid off about 80% of the car.
Yes.
What's the car worth now?
Based on 75,000 miles in good condition, I'm seeing between $5,500 and $7,500.
Okay. Now, after the accident, you put in a claim through your insurance.
Yes.
And your insurance covered how much?
The insurance paid out $7,379.
They wrote a check to the bank?
Yes, ma'am.
And can I see the paperwork on that, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Because what you're suing for now is another $8,496.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your insurance also paid on the other car that you had the accident with. You had an accident with a Ford Focus?
Yes.
Okay, so they paid $2,900 on that, and they paid you $7,379.
Yes, ma'am.
And show me what the note balance was on the car at the time that they paid this out, which would have been sometime in 2020 or maybe 21.
You want the balance after they paid out or before they paid out?
Both.
Okay. This is after they paid out.
And before.
I don't have a copy of what it was owed on before the accident.
Oh, I need a whole, according to Sarah, is between $5,000 and $7,000. They paid you $7,379, which clearly covered a substantial part of your note.
Mm-hmm.
What the defendant is saying is that during COVID, for financial reasons, you requested that the payments be put on hold.
Right.
And that you not make any payments on the car, and that the interest would continue to accrue.
Right.
And that that's not her fault. You asked to have the payments put off, but you drove the car. You had the benefit of driving the car all during COVID.
Right.
And she shouldn't be penalized. The insurance company paid out what the car was worth. These additional charges are because you put off making the payments during COVID, and it also accrued that interest. That's your defense. Am I right?
Yes.
That I have to see.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it. I want to see it.
The paper that you have there, that's from, it shows that a payment was made on that car on September 4th, 2020, and that was the last payment that was made. So if there were no payments being made during that time that she had the car, it was.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, when COVID started, did you put the payments on hold?
I did. Because
you were driving the car. She's not going to pay for that.
She had the car from the beginning of September, and she was only supposed to have it for 3 days when her car got fixed.
It doesn't matter. First of all, you didn't bring me the documentation that I need. You didn't bring me what was actually owed on the car and what was owed on the car and how much was owed as a result of your deferring payments and interest.
When I did the stop payments on the car, it was before she even borrowed it.
Well, that may be, madam, but if what you're telling me is you started to pay again, you still drove the car when you deferred payments.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, well, that's not her responsibility.
But the balance that's left on the car, they paid what the value of the car was. They said that they don't pay finance charges. So there was a balance of 37.
Well, the finance charges were finance charges that accrued, and you don't have the paperwork for me here.
$3,700 worth of finance charge for 2 months?
No, that's not for 2 months. I don't know what the finance charges were for. It doesn't say that. You don't have the paperwork here. You don't have the right paperwork. So you have to understand something. What you're suing her for is $8,496. First of all, the car is only worth $5,000. You got $7,300 that the insurance company paid directly to the lender. And I don't have what you owed here before the accident. I don't have
to $3,700.
I have no idea. You should have brought the paperwork. This is not that paperwork.
So I'm out of a whole car. Like, I've invested almost $10,000 into this car. I let her use the car, and
that's what your insurance for.
And now I'm just not out only the $3,700. Now it's been late charges and other charges on that, and now it's $6,000 that's on my credit.
You deferred the payments. I can't tell how many months you deferred the payments. You said maybe I deferred 3 payments. I don't know. You didn't bring me the paperwork.
I deferred.
You can't tell me.
If she would have never had the car, then I would have been responsible totally to pay all of that amount. It's cost me more than just this amount that's still on my credit.
She didn't do anything wrong so far. I mean, you have the 21-year-old girl who
claims her niece, Janelle Laws, and her stepdaughter, Ari Scales, owe the balance on her car. after Ari totaled it in an accident.
She says you deferred the payments. That was the reason for these overages, which I can understand, because otherwise the
amount of time, and then after that, the gap insurance only pays a certain amount.
I don't know any of that. What I need from you, you didn't bring. You brought only what was necessary to put forth your position. I need what was owed on the car and for past due payments with accrued interest and for current payments. And you don't have that. So far, all I know is you had full insurance on this car and the full insurance was paid. And if there was a reason that the insurance company, for some reason, didn't pay an amount of money, I don't have an explanation of that here in what you gave me, except the explanation that she offers, which was during COVID, you deferred your payments and the interest was accruing, and that the insurance company was not going to pay because that was done prior to October.
That's not
2020.
That's not true. I deferred 1 or 2 payments.
Well, 2 minutes ago, was that 3 payments?
Because, ma'am, I'm sorry. Let me just explain that. During this time, April 2020, I lost my mother to COVID. So I had 2 cars. I had the pink car and I had the car that I gave to my mom, which is a black car, which was also in my name that I was responsible for. The car that I put the deferred payments on was the Kia Optima. That's the one that I put the deferred payments on. This car, I had a couple late payments, but I never stopped paying that car note.
I can't tell you. You don't have the paperwork. All that I can tell you is the insurance company paid everything that they doesn't tell me how much you owed prior to the accident and what it was for. And if it shows that all you owed currently prior to the accident, it had to show that that was $73.79 and it included the gap insurance. You may have had old finance fees that had nothing to do with her.
The gap insurance never paid.
I can't help you, madam. You don't have the right paperwork.
If she would have never had the car, then I would have been responsible totally to pay all of that amount. But because I don't have a car, it disrupted my life. It's cost me more than just this amount that's still on my credit.
She didn't do anything wrong so far. I mean, you have the 21-year-old girl who shouldn't have taken the car keys without permission. But the car was there, and it was there with your permission, and there's no question that the accident was her fault.
I have been asking her to return my car.
If you have the proof, the only thing I want you to show me is a document from your lender which says how much was owed at the time of the accident and for what. Do you have that?
I don't, because I didn't think that I needed it.
Okay, well, then I can't help you. Today's a court day, on which you've already been paid $7,300 is ridiculous. So all I have to see is how much was deferred and the interest on the accrued that you deferred while you were using the car before she had it for this 5 or 6 weeks that she had it in September. If you have that, I'll look at it. If you don't have it, I'm not interested. Do you have
the paperwork that you have?
Well, then I'm going to give it back to you, and you're going to show me where it shows here in October of 2020 how much you owed on the car and how much were past payments and finance charges based on the last payments. You understand what you gave me? If I could make this as simple as possible for you, if you never loaned her the car, if you had the car for that 5-week period and you had an accident with the car during that 5-week period, you would be in the exact same position you are now. The company would have paid off what they paid and would not have paid off what you still owed them because you deferred payments. It doesn't matter who was driving the car.
And I do understand
that. Good.
And I'm glad you understand.
I'm glad you understand it.
My car.
I'm glad you understand that. Your case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
She needed to borrow my car.
It was just a bad accident. It was just me, young.
I'm the one that got to pay all of that money.
I'm fine.
So I don't think that it was fair at all.
So for a period of time, let's say 6 or 7 months, her numbers kept changing. First it was 3 months she didn't pay, and then it was 1 or 2 months that she didn't say, and she may have been late a little bit. Well, the insurance company's not going to give you credit for that. And it didn't look to me, based on the papers, that there was any animus between the parties until
just right now.
Today. and then maybe she should be angry with me and not at them. They all know each other and get along with each other. So that the amount of money she has to pay is the amount of money she should have paid while she was driving the car but chose to defer.
And I think that that's a good lesson about deferring payments, especially now with COVID and everything. I know people my age, 25, around there, have been deferring payments, whether it be for car notes or for interest on your loans, things like that, that sometimes she didn't even realize that this was all accruing under the surface. So you think that by deferring, if you don't read the fine print, that could be a good lesson that
Yeah,
if
and
an
she said she had a lot of
happens-
other things going on in her life, but that...
And again, it was an accident. We don't call it a non...
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2023, Henderson versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Henderson, you and your kids and Miss Williams and her kids decided to rent a house together.
Yes.
And when was that initially?
We moved in January 21st of 2021.
How large a house was it?
5-bedroom.
And who moved in with you?
Me, my 2 children, Tara, her 3 children, and...
The third roommate?
Yes.
What was your share of the rent?
The share of the rent?
Yours?
$14.95.
And yours?
We paid, me and her split it, and then took cash from...
The third roommate?
Yes. So $14.95 too.
And you lived there for a year. What I gather is sort of towards the end of the year, things were getting a little testy between the two of you, either because of you or because of the kids. You had children, and things weren't working out so that both of you were not real happy with each other. That be a fair statement?
Yes. It started earlier in 2021.
I'm sure, but at the time that the lease was up, you both weren't really happy with each other. And according to your complaint, she left, you were stuck paying the rent, and she had signed a renewal of the lease, and you want her to pay her portion of the rent until you found a new roommate, which you actually found a new roommate several months later. The defendant says she told you that she was contemplating living with you for another year, that her speculation that you went into her room and took a signed copy of the lease and gave it to the rental agent or whoever it was.
It would have been in the kitchen in my area where my papers were.
Whatever. Yeah. And it was never her intention to sign a second lease. Your lease was up in January of 2022.
Yes.
The defendant was away for a period of time. When was the defendant away? Just prior to January of 2022.
She went to Hawaii for...
Landlord?
No, they were turned in December.
By both of you?
For the lease renewal, all 3 of us re-signed in December. And I have a copy of that.
What I'm asking you is, were they turned in, because that's very easy to verify, were they all turned in before she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Well, Ms. Williams, if it's your statement that she took your signed copy of the lease and turned it in without your permission at some point when you were in Hawaii, that's what you're alleging. If this doesn't bear that out, Ms. Williams, I'm going to tell you it doesn't lend itself to the truth of that statement, because this indicates that the 2 of you and the third roommate signed this on December the 19th. Then you turned it in. Then it was turned in. That was before you went to Hawaii. The landlord signed it on December 20th, which means that if the landlord signed it on December 20th, he signed it before you went to Hawaii, which means she couldn't have stolen your copy of the lease.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I'm not stating I was in Hawaii when she turned it in. I left for Hawaii January 8th through the 18th.
I understand that.
Okay. I was unaware.
When our lease was up for renewal, we weren't getting along, and I was on the fence about spending another year with Ellen. In December, we received a copy of the lease renewal. I felt pressured into signing it, but then we told Ellen we needed more till I returned. Where did you go?
I went to Hawaii.
Well, that was in January.
Yes.
Well, but the landlord got a copy of the signed agreement December 20th.
I didn't know it was turned in.
Oh, well,
I didn't receive an
I
email.
don't know whether it was turned in or not.
So I emailed Rentcon,
okay.
and I have messages stating it was received from Ellen.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Okay. No, this doesn't say that at all. The lease renewal was signed by all 3 tenants. Correct. Lease was signed by all 3 tenants, and it was received before you went to Hawaii on the 20th of December. Okay. Easy. You moved out in February?
January 31st of 22.
When was the first lease up?
The 22nd of January 22.
So you stayed on after the lease was up?
Yes.
Why?
I wasn't completely moved out yet. I
Well,
was in
that's too
Hawaii.
bad.
I had reached out to Rincon about paying extra to pay the extra few days.
No. Okay. And when did you get a new roommate? Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off. You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good.
Ellen Henderson claims her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, broke their lease and filed a false restraining order against her. Tara is countersuing for a security deposit, utilities, and damaged property.
Okay. When did you get a new roommate?
She moved in
February and March. $14.95, $29.90. Okay. The next part of your case involves filing for a false restraining order. Did you file a restraining order, Miss Williams, against Miss Henderson?
Yes.
I'd like to see what it says. No, don't give me that whole thing. Your application for a restraining order, I'd like to see what your application for... Don't hand them that whole thing. I said I'd like to see what your application for a restraining order said. Okay, so what you say is she sent you 3 letters. You're asking because she sent you 3 letters. They were annoying. I want to know what she was asking for in those letters. Was she asking for rent money? Was she asking for rent?
Yes.
Okay, so she was asking for her money.
Yes.
For your rent money for the months that she didn't have a roommate. Well, that's not harassment, madam.
There's more, but...
What?
There's more. She's telling me that I stole some of her stuff and stuff. In the first letter, it says, if you don't pay this in 5 days, we'll take...
Yeah, she's allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah, which
so
is
she wrote
totally
to you.
fine, but she sent it 2 more times, emailed it, and then showed up at my children's school while I was dropping them off.
Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I...
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off.
Yes, I was fine with going to court.
You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good. $29.90 is what she owes you for rent. Now, part of your counterclaim, forget money for day.
It was half of...
How much was your security deposit?
$1,747.50.
1,747. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where is her security deposit?
In our lease, it states that if you break the lease, the deposit stays with the house. And I have an email from the property management stating that same thing, that she signed a lease saying that if she leaves early, the money stays with the house until everyone moves out.
So the security deposit, if you and your new roommate keep the house safe, you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't allege any damage. Is that correct?
I had to clean up the carpets in her room upstairs. And
Okay. Do you have an invoice for that?
No, I did it myself.
Okay. 2990 less 1747?
$1,243.
So far, she owes you $1,243. That's less the security deposit, which you and your hopefully neat roommate will get back.
May I say something about the payments for rent? So it was me and her doing equal rent at $17.95.25. So that's what I paid. Me and her paid that in January, and I paid the entire amount in February, March.
I understand she was no longer paying rent. You're getting the rent, but I'm deducting from that.
My portion is $17.95, and that's what I'm asking her for, because that's what her portion was when she moved out as well.
Just a second. Am I correct that she, at the time you moved in, individually paid as a security deposit $1,747? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the rent payments. It's not $14.95, it's $17.95.
Was your rent each month $14.95 or $17.95?
$14.95.
Can I see it? Anybody have any proof of that?
I printed out the log, but she paid us $300.
The third roommate.
Right.
So your amount was $14.95.
Correct.
I got it.
Up until
good.
the end of December.
Okay, I'm finished. Now, the next part of your counterclaim is for utilities. Security deposit you get back. What utilities do you think she owes you?
Utilities, she did not pay me November, December, January, or February closing for utilities.
Did you pay them?
I paid them.
I'd like to see where you paid them. No, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of papers that I have to go through. I want to see what utilities there were, when you sent her, a statement of what the utilities were.
Yes.
I assume it worked that she paid you a portion of the utilities.
Yes, it was
What
split.
portion of the utilities did you pay?
We split it equally the whole time we were there.
Okay, so whatever utility bills that were paid by her, you were supposed to pay half.
Correct. Which
Did you?
my last payment to her was December 4th for Spectrum Water, Trash, and Gas.
That was 12/4. How much did you pay her?
$364.61.
Okay, just a second. Did she pay you $364 in December?
She did for prior months.
So that was for November. That covered November. If it was paid in December, that covered November.
It would have been more so October. I
can't get involved with that, madam. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. December and January statement for utilities. You were gone in February.
Yes.
December and January, settle up on the utilities.
And I didn't include it in the lawsuit, but she still owes me for trash. And I have a list of stuff that she took of mine that I did write.
I'm not interested in it, Miss Henderson. It didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me.
Ellen Henderson has accused her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, of breaking their lease. Tara claims she filed the restraining order because Ellen was stalking her.
Miss Henderson, it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
We have a bill for December and January. If there's anything here that's not December and January, I'm dismissing that part of your claim. And I already have a bill that's dated April of 2022.
Right, that was for January and February water.
That's $390. Billing date 4/14. No.
It was.
No. I want you, because I'm losing my patience slowly. Please read out the bills, the total bills for December and January only. Sarah, get ready.
Can it go till February 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, while she's looking for that, did you go to her kid's school?
I mailbox. She knew it was coming from me, and I had to go back to the mailbox and get it after a month.
Okay.
And I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know how else to reach her.
Okay. Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me. What was the date?
May 25th.
Oh, yeah, that was her kid's school. That was her kid's school when I delivered the letter.
Well, that's why she filed for protective order against you. Not unreasonable. It was dismissed after a hearing, or it was just dismissed?
It was dismissed after a hearing.
Yeah. Part of your claim for filing a false restraining order is dismissed. I could actually see why you would get frightened if somebody went to your kid's school to serve you papers. Okay, what are the bills for utilities?
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I had to give her those letters in order to file for small claims.
Okay.
I had tried to mail it, and she didn't go to the post office.
I got it. Could we have the utilities? Which utility and what is it? You should have all this together for me and not make it difficult. Okay. This is why you were coming. Don't read out the numbers, what the utility is for what month and the amount.
So water, $257.94. Water for February was $132.09. for 12/03 bill date for electricity was $167.
What date?
12/20.
That's December.
Yes,
But that was for November.
I thought we were doing December, January.
For December, but you wouldn't have got 1203. They're not prorated. Come on. Let's go.
Okay. 204, this was prepared for electricity, 74.72.
Okay.
This one was for the date that I ended of 128 to 201. It was 12.78 for Edison electricity.
Let's move on.
And then this is gas for 12.29 to 127. It was 37.04. And then the ending charges was 5.72.
Got it? $5.72. I can't believe it. Okay, would you add those up? Yeah. And your arrangement with her, Miss Henderson, was that you each paid half of the utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I say something about that too? Back in April or May of 2021, I went to her to speak and ask about me paying less for water, gas, and electric because she brought all of her Airbnb laundry. She has a cleaning business. And our washers and dryers were going constantly.
And?
And she didn't meet me halfway, so I was stuck paying half.
Fine.
I have the total whenever you're ready. 507.51.
Divide it by 2.
$254.
1243 less 254. 1243 is what she's owed now, less the security deposit. I love this case. Couldn't be more excited about it.
$989.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $989.
Your Honor,
They're
I had
finished.
two
Thank you
rugs
very much.
that
We're
were
done.
ruined. Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's sad that I lost, but I put up a good fight.
I'm happy with the decision.
She didn't want to live with me, that there were issues. Why would you turn in a lease to renew for a whole nother entire year with someone?
It's been a lot of stress.
I wanted her to file suit so I could see her in court in order to take care of the matter.
I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think she was going to renew. We got along, and I loved her and her kids, and I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So the new phenomenon that I've seen over this past generation, for as long as I've been in this business, is because of the economy, people having to live together that are neither in love with each other or related to each other. And I actually think, Sarah, that's such a very hard thing to do. You know, this isn't the first case that we've had that involved adults and their kids having to, for financial reasons, move in with each other. I think I've always said, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I'd rather live in a shoebox alone than with strangers in more comfortable surroundings.
Sure. I think that's a tough call that a lot of people are having to make nowadays with the cost of living and inflation.
Young people.
Young people. 2 single mothers trying to live together with their children to give them a home environment. So it's a risk that you take when you don't know the other person. Even when you do know them, we see family members fighting all the time. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to make those kinds of choices for happiness. Shouldn't create that kind of stress.
I think the best thing you can do is have a concrete contract to fall back on for if something like this happens, because it's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to take that risk. Yeah. Nobody wants to, who's signing a lease agreement, say, if it doesn't work out, this is what happens. Well, that's never between the tenant and the landlord. As between those two people, maybe it would be enforceable, but not between the two tenants and the landlord.
Landlords.
Xin chào mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã quay trở lại với series Tô Màu Tranh cùng với mình. Hôm nay thì mình cùng với các bạn sẽ tô màu cho một nhân vật ở trong phim hoạt hình Boboro nha. Và các bạn hãy cùng mình theo dõi để xem mình sẽ tô màu. Bây giờ mình sẽ cùng nhau tô màu cho bạn Chrome. Đầu tiên là mình sẽ tô phần miệng nha. Sẽ tô màu cam. Giờ thì mình sẽ tô cả phần móng chân cho bạn ấy nhé. Hả? Tao đang quay mà mày. Để hôm nay tao xuống tao mùi con tai nghe mà tao bảo. Giờ mình sẽ tô phần găng tay nha mọi người. Không sao, đã bảo rồi không nói ra thì không biết đâu. hai nợ xấu luôn.
Yeah.
Người chạnh lòng sẽ là người bị nói xấu chứ không phải mình. Tao sợ gì? Ai đuổi được tao?